All right. Hello to anyone that could be watching. My name is Diego Patterson, and I will be presenting this database that we worked on for our final for database class um, for my group, and just getting right into it. Right here, we have a couple drop, create, and use statements to simply create the database and get us running, as well as under this, a ton of drop statements that whenever things are breaking and whatnot, I could just reinstall it directly from here. It took a little bit to figure this stuff out, but it is working now. As you can see, if I run this thing, which I probably should have cleared that beforehand, but when I do run it, as you can see, it clears out. However, starting here, we have our section 1, which is creating our tables. So right here we have our student table being created with a student ID, name, email, and major, an instructor with ID, name, department, and email, our courses with course ID, title, credits, description, instructor ID, and departments with department ID, name, head instructor, as well as the foreign keys being all that stuff. Um, Classroom, which is our classroom ID, building, room number, capacity. Enrollments, which is enrollment ID, student ID, course ID, semester, and then all of our other foreign keys and constraints there. Right here we have our grades, which is grade ID, enrollment ID, score, letter, foreign key, constraint, um, and then a check there for our grades to make sure that we can get a letter score. Our schedules, which is schedule ID, course ID, classroom ID, time slots, and then all of our foreign keys again, as well as a day. Um, we have our logs as well for log ID, table, operation, old data, new data. And this is just basically to keep it organized when we're trying to read it ourselves. And yeah, moving on, we have our section 2, which is where we start to insert stuff. Right here we have a ton of sample stuff to make sure that we can actually test stuff without having to insert a ton of new stuff and delete a ton of new stuff every time we wanted to get a decent result. So we set up a ton of dummy stuff as well as ways to get grades a bit better. And then we have our storing stuff such as enroll, where we have our student ID, course ID, and semester, which we take. We basically run all that stuff and declare them. Then we check if the student exists, checks if the course exists, and checks if someone is already enrolled. Capacity, all that stuff to make sure that we have a working system on enrolling a student and ensuring that we aren't getting duplicates. Right here, we have our procedure 2, which is dropping a student from a class, which is obvious to come after an enroll, because we need to be able to, if someone wants to leave a course or join a course, both of these need to be here. So for this, we have our student ID, course ID, and semester to ensure that we get the right time and everything, which I believe is the exact same as our enroll. So basically from here, we get the enrollment ID to make sure it exists, and then we delete it using a delete from and then ensuring that's there. And then we also have a print statement here to make sure that we know it worked, or a select statement right there to make sure that we know it worked when we query it. Next up, we have procedure 3, where we view student schedule for semester. Um, so right here, we create the procedure with student ID and semester, which will allow us to start collecting all of this stuff and basically pulling up a chart or a table of all that so that we can know what's happening. As well as that, we have our assigning a grade to enrollment. So for this, I wanted to ensure there was something in place for something like knowing what instructor did it, which assumingly this would likely have a front end to it, which would connect it to stuff already. So the best way to do this and make sure we don't overload what we have in here is simply having instructor ID to show which instructor we have. So we have instructor ID, enrollment ID, score, and letter grade as well. So What we do there is we declare that it exists, authorized for a instructor, and our course ID. Then we validate the scores, so basically says it has to be within 0 to 100 to make sure that it's a reasonable score. I know other teachers do that differently now, but for simplicity, this is a good way to do it. As well as that, we um, validate our letter grades, so we basically ensure that it is one of these right here. Um, we check if they are enrolled to it as well, so that we're not giving random students that aren't enrolled to the class a grade. And then we check if the instructor is authorized, which is right here, and just basically pulls the ID and makes sure it is attached to the course. So moving on, we have our view all available courses, where we simply create a table and we just see what is available. We also have our view student grades, which you need a student ID and semester for that. And it allows you to basically pull up the course ID, title, credit, score, letter grade, and everything that you would need to see for that. And just basically give you a quick rundown on all that. Running up next, we have our check enrollment count, which checks for our course enrollments, which needs a course ID and semester ID. What we do is we select from our title, semester capacity. We select from our course or we check from our course, and we just keep on running through that until we can group them all together and show off our course enrollment, which I will show in I believe coming up soon, I will demo that for you. Next, we have adding a new student, which is very necessary for adding the classes, which we need name, email, major. If email exists, then we basically allow it to go through, but if not, then we say it's required, email required, already exists, then we run to the next thing, and we say if email is greater than 0, email already exists, so that we don't have multiple students in a class. Next up, we have our insert the new student, and we print something out to say it was properly inserted. We also have our view all students, so we could see what students are in a class, I believe. Moving on, we have all of our triggers, which basically just running through all of our audit logs. This is just for easy viewing on our part, as well as our views for create enrollment summary and just seeing what happens there. So doing quick tests, I want to run through all of these. So test 1 being a view all students, which would be running this, which gives us all the students to enrolled basically, which is very useful if you are trying to basically run a university, I guess. You have your student ID right here, which makes it a lot easier to pull stuff up than pulling a email, major, name, everything like that. As well as that, we have enrolling a new student. So if we do call to that, we can add a student to that. And then if we do view all students, we should have a Sarah Connor in here. Sarah Connor. So as you can see, we have all that. So as you can see, when we do that, we get a Sarah Connor in there. Next up is enrolling a new student, or we already did that. So next up we have dropping a class. So for this one, we should probably enroll in the class first. So we would do a enroll with the ID. What was this one again? Well, we have all this stuff right here. And as we do this, it will say that student 3 enrolled in course 1 for fall 2025, which pulls up our course ID and our student ID to make sure that the student goes in there. We can also drop the class from here by doing call drop class with the exact same thing. With view student schedule, we have our call here where we can just view a student schedule for this student ID 1, having data structures and intro to SQL. Isn't that fun? Next up, we have our assigning a grade. So let's say we want to assign a grade to student 1 in enrollment ID 1. We give him an 87%, where we can also view that student's grade. 87%. Now to view all available courses, we have this right here, where we can call this and view all available courses in the entirety of this for obvious use in needing to know what courses are available. Next up, we have checking enrollment, where we want to run this. And we can see for student 1, he's enrolled in Intro to SQL with 2 students there. Likewise, we have our enrollment summary, which is right here, which shows how many students are in each class, average grade of each thing. Some of these stuff is just dummy and I haven't put anything in them, so obviously they're going to be nulled. And you can just see that that works there as well. And then just for our viewing right here, we have our audit logs, which allows us to see insert old data changed at this, so we can see when stuff was changed and view old data. Well, yeah. So thank you for your time, and this was our database. Thank you.